Hey guys, welcome back to another CEL video. Today, we're gonna have a video about the past simple tense versus the present perfect tense. So let's begin. So the thing that students have a lot of trouble with is mostly the present perfect tense. The past simple is pretty easy because all you gotta really do is add ed and talk about the past, and it's usually correct. But the present perfect is one of those tenses that a lot of English learners have trouble with because it doesn't exist in their home languages usually. So they can't really wrap their head around how it works. So the best thing to do when trying to use the present perfect is just to really stay in the tense and not try to translate it back into your language, because usually your language doesn't have the present perfect. So let's talk about the form. How do we structure the two tenses? Well, the past simple is pretty easy. All you really got to do is add an ed to the end of the word, right? That's how we make the past version of the word. But the present perfect is a little bit trickier. We have to add an ed sometimes, but we also need to have the have or has depending on the subject of the sentence, right? So if we're talking about he, then we would use has, he has. But if we're talking about they, then we would use have, they have, right? Every pronoun, every subject uses one of those two words. So you kind of have to figure out which one they use. But the present perfect uses have, has, and then a past participle. So it's not exactly the ed. If you remember your verb tenses, there's verb 1, verb 2, and verb 3. So we want to use verb 3 with the present perfect. It's pretty easy most of the time because verb 3 and the verb 2 are usually the same for most verbs. But there's a lot of irregular verbs that are different, like known, or eaten, or swum, right? So those don't use ed. So we got to make sure that we know to use the past participle when we're using the present perfect tense. So let's talk about when we use past simple and when do we use present perfect. So when we usually talk about stories, we use past simple, right? When we're telling a story that happened in the past, all we gotta do is use the past simple, then it usually works out pretty well. Because when we tell a story, you're telling something that has been finished and over with in the past. So that's one of the big things when we're talking about the two tenses. Is something over and done with in the past, or is it still connected to the present, right? So if we use past simple, then we're talking about something that's over and done with in the past. But if we're talking about present perfect, then maybe it started in the past and it's still connected to the present, or maybe even still going, right? The other situation, very important situation where we use the two is it a specific situation in the past, or is a non-specific situation in the past? So for a specific situation, we would use the past simple. And if it's not a specific, we would use the present perfect. So let's talk about finished actions and unfinished actions. So remember, unfinished actions are for the present perfect tense, and finished actions are for the past simple tense. So let me give you guys some examples. So I have known Bob for 5 years. That's the present perfect tense, right? So what does that mean when I'm saying I have known Bob for 5 years? So right there, I'm saying that I met Bob 5 years ago and I still know him now. So it's connected to the present now. I met him 5 years ago and I still know him now. So in that case, we would use the present perfect because it connects to the present, it connects to the now. But what about, I knew Bob for 5 years, but he moved away. I knew Bob for 5 years, but he moved away. So that's the past simple, right? So that one does not connect to the present. So in that sentence, you're saying, there was a period of time of 5 years in the past where I knew Bob, but I don't know him anymore because it's over. It does not connect to the present, right? Let me give you another example. Let's see if we can figure this one out. So, I have been to the zoo yesterday. Is that correct? I have been to the zoo yesterday. So it's the present perfect tense, right? But does that sentence work? It doesn't because of the yesterday, right? Yesterday is in the past. It's over, it's finished. So we cannot use I have been with yesterday because one is present perfect and it's connected to the present, and yesterday is not. Yesterday is over. So that wouldn't work. Next, we're going to talk about another way we can use both of the tenses. One is talking about specific time in the past. The other talks about non-specific time in the past. So, when we have a sentence like, I saw the movie, I saw the movie, and I have seen the movie, I have seen the movie, right? So, I saw the movie is the past simple. So, and I have seen the movie is the present perfect. So both of those sentences are talking about something that is finished in the past. It started and they finished in the past, right? But there's a difference there. I saw the movie talks about a specific time in the past, right? You can say, I saw the movie last year, or I saw the movie 2 days ago. I saw the movie on Monday, right? So we don't need something else to add on, but it helps if we want to say yesterday or 2 days ago or last month. But anyway, I saw the movie has to do with a specific point in the past. But I have seen the movie is non-specific. It's very general. You're just telling someone that you have seen the movie before, but they don't know when you saw it. Maybe you saw it last year, maybe you saw it last month, maybe you saw it 3 years ago. It's talking about a non-specific time in the past. Now let's talk about experiences. So we all like to talk about our experiences that we have had in the past, right? So a lot of the times when I'm talking with my students, they tell me about all the countries that they've been to, that they've visited. So we have a sentence like, I went to Brazil when I was a child, right? So that's talking about a specific time when that person went to Brazil. But what about, I have been to America? I have been to America. That's a little bit different, right? Instead of just going, I have been. You're telling the person not when you did something, but if you did something. So if someone asks you, have you been to America? You can say, I have been to America. So the when doesn't really matter. It's only the important part is that you went, you did. Did you go? Yes, I did. So I have been to America. Another way we can use the present perfect and the past simple has to do with reporting events. So usually when we're talking about older events, and we're telling someone, it's usually the past simple, right? Maybe he crashed his car last month. So when something happened in the past, like a while ago, but more recent events that maybe just happened today and you're just telling someone, like maybe he has crashed his car, okay? So it has to do with a more recent event that can connect to the present a little bit better. So for older events, we use past simple, and for more recent events, we can use the present perfect. Now let's talk about some of the words that are associated with the past simple and the present perfect. You can use these words within your tenses to make them work better. So we have words like yesterday, or last, or any month you can think of, February, July, January, or any day of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or a word like ago. We're all going to use those words with the past simple, right? Because they indicate specific times in the past. So 2 days ago, or Monday, or July, or a long time ago, or yesterday. Those words are associated with the past simple because they indicate more specific times. And then for the present perfect, we have words like already, just, yet, ever, and never. Those words are, you're going to hear more to do with the present perfect. Like, have you ever been to America before? All right? But the two words that we're going to focus more on are for and since, because they have more to do with time, so they're a little bit more important. So the word since is more associated with the present perfect tense. And the word for can be used with the present perfect tense, but it can also be used with the past simple tense. So for is for both, but since is more for the present perfect tense. So let's start with the word for. For we can use for both tenses, but only at certain times. We can use for the past simple when an action is already finished, and we use for the present perfect when it's not finished. For example, I lived in London for 5 years. I lived in London for 5 years, right? So that's the past simple. There, you're saying that I lived in London for 5 years in the past. I don't live there anymore. So it's a finished action. That's when we can use for the past simple. But for the present perfect, you can say, I have lived in London for 5 years. Same sentence, kind of, right? So I have lived in London for 5 years. We use the word for there because it's unfinished with the present perfect, right? So we can only use it with the present perfect when it's an unfinished sentence. Okay, so those are the two ways we use for each tense. Now for since. Since we don't really use for the past simple, but we do use it a lot for the present perfect. An example would be, I have lived in America since 1999. I have lived in America since 1999, right? And would that work for the past simple? Let's try to put it in there somewhere. So, I lived in America since 1999. It sounds right, but it's not, right? I lived in America since 1999. You would want to use the present perfect for that. I have lived in America since 1999. Since we want to use more for the present perfect. All right, guys, that's just about it for the video. I'm going to go through it all again really quick so you guys get the hang of it. So remember, when do we use past simple and when do we use present perfect? So it has to do with specific and non-specific times in the past, right? That's one instance. The other time has to do with, is it connected to the present or not? Is it a finished action or is it still going on, right? So for the past simple, it's something that happened in the past and finished in the past. It's not happening anymore. For the present perfect, it's something that started in the past and is still happening now. It's continued to the present. So that's just about it for this video. So I'm gonna leave you guys with one question that you can leave your comments in the comments below, okay? So tell me what you think the right answer is. So I'm gonna give you the sentence, I blank to America 3 times. I blank to America 3 times. Now, is it I have been to America 3 times or I went to America 3 times? So leave it down below. What do you think is the correct answer? Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I'll see you next time with another one.